Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Modern Investor. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Hope that everyone out there is having a great day, a good morning, a good afternoon, and or evening. Wherever you are, wherever you might be, a very big thank you to everyone who leaves a comment on the video. It helps out the channel a lot. Do not forget to subscribe to the Modern Investor as well. Without any ado, that is further. Let's jump right into it. A lot of things seem to be changing. Apparently, we have good things on the horizon within the cryptocurrency space. A lot of the news lately, if you've been paying attention, has kind of been all over the place, like not in a normal manner either. A lot of people are placing their chips on what stable coins are going to do, discussions about US debt levels, tokenization companies, coin valuations and prices, where things are going to be in 2026, how much money there is to be made, and who the winners are going to be. I think, as I've said before, 2026 is going to be a very pivotal year. I think a lot of it has been seen in 2025, but 2026 will probably declare, at least short term, will declare the winners of the space, the coins that are going to be used. As you've been seeing, a lot of altcoin ETF launches have been taking place. But then you also realize that a lot of ETFs aren't doing as well as people kind of expected. I told you before, years ago, it's basically all about money, obviously. But I assumed we would start to see which companies would gain favor, who would have the light shown on them, and everyone, basically bending the knee to them. If you don't remember, years ago, Coinbase was also touted as like a really, weird, kind of almost not eccentric, but like just an odd company. This is when a number of banks and institutions and the New York Stock Exchange were trying to launch their own form of a crypto exchange that completely fell apart. And then at some point, Coinbase became like the golden child of the cryptocurrency market. Everyone custodies with them. They get all the sponsorships, you name it. That's how things are. Ripple, years ago, was completely shunned by just about every institution within the United States. The reasoning that we were given was because of the SEC's lack of regulation. They didn't say if XRP was a security or a commodity. There was a multi-year long lawsuit when it could have been resolved in 30 days. There was all this, talk about Ripple can't do this and they're not going to do that. And they wanted to work with banks and they weren't then allowed to. So they moved basically overseas and became quite popular in other regulated markets. And now all of a sudden we're beginning to see like this, if you haven't been paying attention, apparently everyone loves Ripple now. Everyone loves XRP. It's kind of, and I will say from the vantage point of you kind of like, you need to have been here to have put all the puzzle pieces together. It became abundantly clear. If you missed it, I think it was January. I want to say January, with all these videos and photos of Brad Garlinghouse in the White House. And then it being announced that the US, along with Bitcoin, was going to accumulate XRP for their reserve thing as well. And, this kind of like favor began to shine on them. I saw this and I was like, I wish people weren't ridiculous. I really don't understand this idea of shunning someone, talking down to them when you know that they're just, I don't know. Okay, whatever. So a lot of companies years ago used to, as we say in English, used to talk smack about Ripple a lot. And then wouldn't you know it, now they're completely favored within the cryptocurrency space. It's also, remember, the beginning of the year when Garlinghouse was in the White House. And that's when we heard from Charles Hoskinson, the creator of Cardano. Remember all the articles when he was like, I love Ripple. Ripple's amazing. Like XRP, you know, mwah, chef's kiss. And he was talking about minting the Ripple stable coin on top of the Cardano blockchain. That all happened after January. And since then, you know, sky's the limit. They're an amazing, amazing company. Forbes. Yeah, Forbes, the Wall Street Journal, and there was another company have been quite critical of crypto for the better half of a decade. The articles that we've been going over, the things that made popular and or unpopular news were quite scathing at times. They would talk about these companies being zombie companies. No one's using them. No one wants them. No one wants that coin. No one's doing anything with this. And I now use the term we knew. It was the letters B and the letter S, just because they were kind of always saying things like, well, XRP is garbage, but you know what's not? Bitcoin Cash. That's the coin everyone needs to look towards. And I was like, wrong. They would talk nonsense about certain other coin projects and they would go, but this coin that no one had ever heard of, that's the one to keep an eye on. And it's like, okay, sure. Forbes has dramatically shifted its stance on XRP and Ripple. Who would have thought it, right? You know, the company, as I told you before, that did everything they said they were going to do. Why would you ever look at them in a negative light? If you haven't been here with this channel since 2016 or the beginning of 2017, the company made a lot of promises. We are going to work with a dozen banks. We are going to work with central banks. We are going to do this for the chain and the coin. This is back when they had, remember XRapid? Yeah, they had this thing where other protocols and other things that they had in the background that wouldn't circumvent XRP per se, but it wasn't necessarily using it. They merged all of that together. So everything that happens within their ecosystem also happens with XRP. Everything they said they would do, they've done it and more. They're working with dozens of banks. They have huge consortiums in Japan, in Singapore, across Asia, and they've done it. But now, as we begin to choose the winners, as these large companies basically know in the background who's been given the handshake, now everyone is shifting gears, shifted their stance on XRP and Ripple, describing the company as almost unrecognizable compared to the version it profiled in early 2024. No, the company's kind of the same. They made a lot of acquisitions. It's just now they're more favored, like at the top. So everyone is now running to them and going, "Oh no, we didn't mean that before. What happened is that it was one gigantic long typo, and we're just really sorry." Back then, XRP and Ripple topped Forbes's list of zombie blockchain projects. If you've paid attention to anything that Ripple has been doing since 2020, a good 2020, it's been remarkable. We've heard promises from Tron. We've heard promises from Shiba Inu, promises from Cardano, across the board, you name it. From Ethereum, by 2020, we're going to have 100,000 transactions per second. By 2024, we're going to have, across the board, Ripple has literally been, Ripple and Binance, as far as I can remember off the top of my head. I'm sure there's one other random one. Sure, amazing, thumbs up. One of the only companies who's actually done everything they said they were going to do. Okay. Forbes listed them as a zombie blockchain project with billion-dollar valuations, but with supposedly minimal real-world usage. Today, Forbes is calling Ripple's transformation a $180 billion reinvention driven by acquisitions, regulatory clarity, and a surge of institutional interest in XRP. We've seen all of this for years, which is insane because It makes me annoyed when publications, regardless of who they are, just kind of lie outright. If me and you don't have access to like boardroom information of all these things, like me and you, we're not Forbes. Me and you are not Ripple. Me and you are not BlackRock. If me and you, however, we're getting crazy good news about Ripple and XRP over the last 5 years, doesn't it seem weird that Forbes didn't have that news? What's the point of writing negative articles about these companies? And then the moment they do all these big things, even more than before, people then go, okay, now they're amazing. Now we love them. Now it's awesome. No, Ripple's been amazing for a very, very long time. It could have also been the end of the lawsuit, what have you. It says, freed from the SEC, Ripple has gone on an acquisition spree. If you've missed the last couple of months, they have been buying a large amount of companies. They've been purchasing a lot of treasury companies. The idea would be in the very near future, 2026, we are going to see basically custody and treasury solutions kind of take off. You have all these companies, all these governments, all these countries who are buying up huge amounts of Bitcoin and Ether. If you can be the company who holds this money for them, Ripple is basically setting themselves up to be a BlackRock. That's not even a joke. Like, this is how you do it. You acquire these companies and have the paperwork to, the legal duty to be able to hold these coins for institutions, for governments, for banks. You start holding these coins for these companies, and this company says, okay, we're giving you 10 billion. We'll give you so and so. If cryptocurrency prices then end up doing a 10, 15, 20x over the course of a 3, 5, 7-year period, well, Ripple then is now holding $1 trillion worth of cryptocurrency assets. The longer they do this and the longer that it works, other companies go, well, Ripple's been around for 5 years doing this. We're going to start using them. More money goes into it, then eventually you become a company who's holding $17 trillion worth of assets. The other part has to do with tokenization, as I've been going over and over. Tokenization is going to be huge. This isn't a small thing. Okay, calm down. This isn't a small thing that's happening. This is going to completely absorb, literally, the world of finance. Everything of value is going to be tokenized and put on chain. How do we know this? Because we've heard from BlackRock and Fidelity and every other company saying that they're expecting the current tokenized market is between $2 to $4 trillion of assets on chain or that have been digitized in some form or fashion. BlackRock is expecting that by 2030, 2030, there are going to be $100 trillion, yes, $100 trillion in tokenized assets on chain. If XRP is chosen for 3% of that, the valuation of XRP and its chain begin to skyrocket. The valuation of Ripple as a company begins to skyrocket. If you have these companies then saying, hey, we're going to be tokenizing treasury bills and bonds and real estate and all these other things we have with our company, we're going to be putting it onto the XRP ledger. And we find out that there's $1.3 trillion. So not only are they holding it in the treasury company, but actually on chain. And Ripple says, okay, we will also custody the things that are essentially on chain. The valuation of the company then further continues to skyrocket. This is what all these acquisitions have been for. They're not random things. They don't just sound cool. We are moving into a world where these companies, they want these custody solutions. They want these treasury things. And Ripple, and I think is mainly Ripple and Coinbase right now, who are like winning the bids for a lot of these things. They purchased G Treasury for $1 billion. They purchased Hidden Road, which is now called Ripple Prime, for $1.25 billion. Another company called Rail for $200 million. They purchased Medico for $250 million. Standard Custody for an undisclosed amount as well. If you look at a lot of the what's the word? If you look at the actual process of the companies going back and forth, the people who have the money right now are mainly Ripple and mainly Coinbase, who are like acquiring all of these companies. Yeah, it's and this is like what we know about. A lot of these companies also do like major purchases of like real estate around the world. If you get a chance, we talked about it before. There are a lot of like family offices and very wealthy families and institutions and stuff like that, or just companies who end up buying like massive portions of cities. So, I mean, of course, you're hedging everything that you have. You buy about 15 different companies, you get all the paperwork that you need, and you begin to, basically do all these different other things that you weren't doing before. But then on the other side, as a company, many of them they'll go, okay, we're going to buy $35 million worth of gold. We're going to put, $50 million worth of real estate into that city, and brand new projects. You basically become so rich that you can't really become poor. Have you heard the phrase where like, you're so rich you could throw money out the window and it would basically fly back to you and like double? Like, that's a real thing. You kind of get to the point where your money can literally go anywhere. So if you have 3 projects that didn't work, guess what? The other 97, they're definitely, making you money. If at some point, anyway, you get the generalized idea. Forbes now frames Ripple not as a struggling payment token issuer, which is insane. This isn't 2015. They were never a struggling. Okay. Forbes now frames Ripple not as a struggling payment token issuer, but as a consolidating financial services conglomerate. Wow. Industry figures say the difference is visible. And then they talk about it's a very long article. And then I found the actual Forbes article. If you're not looking at the screen, it says inside Ripple's $180 billion reinvention. Then there's Brad Garlinghouse looking to the side, like being like, yeah, I'm rich. And then the article, basically goes over all these different things and how amazing Ripple is and how XRP is going to change the entire world and yeah, what a difference a year and some months make. No, Ripple has always been an amazing company within the space, but now they're favored. And their favoritism has made them a lot of money, and they're very smart. They're going to push that into multiple different markets, and they will remain an industry leader. I don't know if you know that, and I know there's some people, I still don't understand why, but have a great life, who just don't like Ripple or who don't like XRP because of propaganda back from 2016 and 17, what have you. No, this company is going to do just fine. Over the years, their acquisitions are basically setting them up to be an industry leader forever. This isn't like, random, like they are buying these companies to set, if crypto exists, they will exist. That's basically what's going on. As long as crypto is around, they will be making huge amounts of money. And these are the acquisitions that like we're hearing about. There's a lot of other stuff always happening behind the scenes, but yeah, as you might have imagined, this was incredibly popular news. I expect Ripple and XRP are going to do amazing things over the coming years. It's just a matter of markets actually reflecting everything that's going on. I do sincerely hope that you have all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope that it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.